took a shot at the rock. And girl, you left my stomach in a knot. Took my lighter and you burned the bridge. Thought you was a writer. No, you're just an idol. You got me feeling like Big Sean in this. 5, 4, 3, 2. I deserve a minute. Wait a minute. Gotta get up and over. Regain my composure. No longer my lover. Finally finished and you did it. Girl, you really showed me. Think with your heart, don't think with your body. Clever. Sorry not sorry, sorry not Justin Timberlake, write me a river. Lately I be having conversations with myself cause I feel like I have nobody to talk to. I be having conversations with myself cause I feel like I have nobody to turn to. Everything was green light, now we got the red. Could've had somebody else, chose you instead. I be having conversations with myself cause I feel like I have nobody to talk to. You tried to convince me it was all in my head, and I felt like it's that you was me instead. Hey, I wanted to rock with you, roll with you. Said you was my baby girl, then you left me too. Everything was kosher, perfect like a poster. Then I got word that you wanna leave a picture. Off with somebody else, off with the jerk. With the shame on me, I really thought that it could work. Off with somebody else, off with the loser. Shame on me, I really thought we had a. Lately I be having conversations with myself cause I feel like I have nobody to talk to. I be having conversations with myself cause I feel like I have nobody to turn to. Everything was green light, now we got the red. Could've had somebody else, chose you instead. I be having conversations with myself cause I feel like I have nobody to talk to. Everything was green light, now we got the red. Could've had somebody else, chose you instead.
Right, global greetings, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Topics here on Real Entertainment Network. Greetings, Orly. Greetings, Layamiga. Greetings to our brothers and sisters throughout the entire Eastern Caribbean, especially our folks down there in Jamaica, Haiti, Dominican Republic, who would have suffered, much of the damage of Melissa that passed through the Caribbean region. So we send our prayers and blessings to you as we get into another edition. Like say good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Some one of those greetings might be applicable to you depending on where you are around the world at this time. You could be doing anything else, but you're locked in here with us on an exclusive edition of the Topics here on Real Entertainment Network. This evening it's my usual co-host, Bankie Shabazz King, along with our special guest this evening, the Honorable Mark A.G. Brantley, Premier of Nevis, who would be in with us to discuss a number of issues, including the SSZ, agriculture, geothermal, fish shear, a whole heap of different topics. A lot of the questions that are out there, we're going to seek to put forward some of the questions that we have. We're going to give him an opportunity to introduce himself and share with the public some of the things that he would want to put on the table. And then we would also give you, the listeners, an opportunity to call in and also ask your questions on the platform. We are streaming live also on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch TV. So all simultaneously right here on Real Entertainment Network. So with that, I want to say good evening, Bankie. Greetings.
Greetings, Yahsonn, and greetings to our guest, the Premier. How are you doing? Also, greetings to our guests tuning in. Just want to say good evening to everyone who listening to the sound of my voice. Yahsonn, you already did all the appropriate greetings also, so don't think I have to really go over that. So just want to say greatly appreciate you guys tuning in to Real Entertainment Network. Shows that you have that interest where we have our guests come on and listen to your views, listen to your calls and give their response and stuff like that. So we appreciate you giving that respect to us when it comes to educating the general public with the information when anything within the private sector or the public sector, which is going to affect the community. So this evening, as Yahsonn said, our guest, the Premier, Mark A.G. Brantley, which have committed to come on the show every 3 months on my request, to update the general public with anything going on and stuff like that. And I want to give him that respect for sticking to what his word, and that is very commendable. Because usually you find a lot of leaders don't want shy away from coming to the general public, and he have given me his word, and he has stick to that word. And I just want to give him a shout out on that, because I mark Hardy, so it shows that he's sticking to his word, and I got to give him that honor. So enough respect for that, Premier. So Yahsonn definitely looking for the discussion and the reasoning this evening with the Premier himself. So definitely, Premier, welcome again on the Topiks on Real Entertainment Network. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, and thank you both. Please forgive my attire, and if my voice is not the norm. It's a rainy night here, as you know, in Nevis, and I was a little out and about. But I thought I'm a little under the weather as well. But I thought that it was important to keep this appointment, Bankie and Yahsonn. I believe that when we offer ourselves for public life, and we are in public life, we can't be afraid of the public that we say we serve. You're right. I think a lot of leaders shy away, but I don't think that's the appropriate approach. And so I come to every forum that I'm invited to. And I think that you have been very kind to invite me in the past. I believe this is my third or fourth time being on this program. And I was here recently, and I'm back, and I'm grateful for that. So you've thanked me for coming and keeping my word, but I also want to thank you and the team for keeping your word. Because you have invited me, and you have continued to invite me. So I'm grateful for that as well, and grateful for the opportunity to engage. That's my job. It's my responsibility, it's my duty to keep our people up to date with information, and to hope that, of course, in terms of the information that's shared, they would be satisfied in terms of the direction that the island is headed in. So I'm here tonight. I don't have any big introductory speech. I'm just really here to answer questions and to engage. I like this program because it tends to be free-flowing, and questions can come from anywhere. Some if you're a good cricketer, I was never a good cricketer, but sometimes you hook, sometimes you duck. I heard a man say a time that a leave alone is a good shot. So we do the best we can. So let's see how it goes tonight, and I'm here with you, and I hope to be able to engage.
All right, beautiful. All right, Yahsonn, we start the ball rolling. But let me give some housekeeping. For the first 40 minutes, the Premier and those will be doing some reasoning back and forth, some question and answers and so forth, and then we'll give the cue when the lines are ready to open, and you all should just be respectful, get to the point. I ain't gonna tell you how much question to ask, but just be concise with the questions and stuff like that, so at least we can get as much question as possible. All right. What I know earlier, the conference, not really a conference, let me say, where they had the SSZ, and one of the
town hall meeting.
The town hall meeting, yes. I know you said everyone must speak for themselves. Well, I got to tell you, I can't do that. The general public, we're moving around on the island, going to business places. People say, Bankie, we listen to shows, and I'm going to ask the Premier this, ask the Premier that. So I take all the questions and compile them here and there. So these are some of the questions. So one of the first questions is healthcare. I know earlier in the last budget, you spoke about moving up to most attention will focus to the addition to the hospital. So how is that when it comes to when it will be finished, the amount expense it will take to finish it, and when it comes to the readjusting of the inside, and when it comes to material wise, when it comes to machineries, if there are time frame, how much money will it totally takes to operationalize that part of it?
Right. So I think we're still putting numbers together in terms of the full operationalization of the hospital. What I will say is that you're absolutely correct. Last budget, I said that this would be the number one priority for us this year. That has not materialized. It's unfortunate, but it is sometimes the difficulties that one experiences in government. We hit a financing snag, so to speak. We were trying to arrange some financing on the hospital, and that financing has not yet materialized, or did not materialize in time for us to proceed. So it is still a major commitment that we've made. We have finished one aspect, which was the kitchen. We have a brand new kitchen facility there that also took some time and was delayed because of machinery. And even now, we have not yet opened it because of the electrical grid that is necessary. But we are committed to that project, Bankie. I have said to the team that we need to finish that project within this term. And that's our ambition. As I said, I had made the commitment that we'd started this year. That's something we have not been able to honor and to keep. I don't like when I don't keep commitments, but unfortunately, things were just beyond my control. But we anticipate that we'll be able to restart that project very early in the new year. The estimates to finish that project in terms of timing, we are here in 18 months or so. So we are hopeful that once we get going, we'll keep going and get it done and get it completed. You asked the question of equipment. That's why I say I can't give you a full answer yet, because we're still working out those logistics in terms of what equipment is going to cost. I can say, I think publicly, that we are engaged with some friendly governments to ask them if they could assist in terms of the equipment side of things. We have to build it, of course. We have to find the money for that, but in terms of equipping it. And the reason for that is that sometimes you take some machinery, like MRI or CT scan and those, they are constantly bringing out new models of that machinery, but it doesn't mean the old models aren't good. So sometimes, for example, just think about it in the context, and all of the young people are listening, context of the iPhone. iPhone bring out a new iPhone every year. It doesn't mean that the 15 is no good because the 17 has come out. So sometimes what we try to do is we try to capitalize on some of the older technology, which is still good. So if a man has an iPhone 15, but he has upgraded to the iPhone 17, then you could probably get the iPhone 15 from him for free for very little. So that's the kind of discussions we are having with at least one friendly government to determine that. But we are still working on that. That's a project that's important to us in terms of the people of Nevis, and it's a project that we need to get done. We had, and I should say so in the interest of full disclosure, that's one of the items that we also had on the table with this Destiny project, because we said to them that, put their money, if you will, into a joint hospital facility, which would be Alexandra, and let us build out that so that will service their residents as well as service everybody else. So that's a conversation that's ongoing, and I hope that those conversations will come to fruition shortly. And then we can say with some level of conviction to the people of Nevis that we have what is necessary to proceed on that particular project. But I'm disappointed. It's, however, as I said, just one of those things about governance. You make the best plans, but sometimes they don't materialize.
Okay, I know you mentioned 18 months, but I know the original project was supposed to take between 18 to 24 months, which are around the same time. So it seemed like there will be a lot of scope of work, a large amount of work to be done. Also, adjacent to that area, I just passed the area this afternoon coming back home from the farm, where they had the I think that was the nursing home, the matron home, and across below the hospital there we have a lot of steel. Was supposed to, and your structure was supposed to go there where they all be building. Yes. What have become of that project? Had it been a couple of years now? Well, but I haven't heard anything much about that project also.
Right. So that project was supposed to be a home for, I believe it was the Ministry of social development, social welfare. Those types of ministries were supposed to be housed there. What we've done, we're repurposing that steel frame. As you know, the Ministry of Agriculture, where it's currently situated, that building is in pretty bad shape. That's at Prospect. So we hope to repurpose that steel frame and use it there. That's another project that we intend to undertake in the new year. We're making some budgetary provisions for that project because we want to bring the Ministry of Agriculture and the Nevis Housing and Land Development Corporation, which has been paying rent for a long time. We want to bring them under sort of one roof, since it's one ministry. And so that is the intention, to do that project there and to therefore take the steel frame, not to waste it, but to take it and to use it in a repurposed way on that particular project. That land there that you just spoke about, it has been kept in that way because there is some, and it's like government functions just like any organization, even just like a marriage sometimes. Husband have one idea, wife has another idea, and you have to bring people around and have those discussions in order to determine what's the best approach. What we're doing up there is that there's been some suggestion that with an aging population, that there may be a need to expand the flamboyant home. So we're looking at all of that and saying, well, boy, let's keep our powder dry, so to speak. Let's keep the options open for that space that is currently there. But no firm decision has been taken in terms of the use of that space. But the steel frame structure will be repurposed for the Ministry of Agriculture.
Okay, Yahsonn?
Good evening. Interesting that we are on the hospital while we're in the healthcare sector. Well, recently we would have had some issues or some discussions in relation to dialysis, and that is something that we have been struggling in Nevis with for some time. Nevis would have invested some time back in 2 dialysis machines that were left unused. While there was a Taiwanese donation intended for dialysis that was reportedly unutilized as well. Well, one, what accounts for this neglect, and what intentions are planned?
I didn't hear you said what accounts for something, but your voice, yes,
Oh, no, I
I
said
would
what
talk hard on
accounts.
that, you know. Yeah, man.
Sorry. Said what accounted for this neglect, in terms of the machines, and also the donation from the Taiwanese that was intended to also support that project.
Right. So
and
okay, sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. No,
No, go
you
ahead.
said what accounted for the neglect, and I think that this issue of dialysis has been a horse that people have been flogging. I believe, it's unfortunate because the explanations have been given time and time again, and people come back to it. And in fact, every election cycle, there's some talk about dialysis. The reality is that dialysis has never been a situation like you buy a refrigerator and plug it in. And that was always our position as a government, that the necessary preparations, including the financial arrangements for dialysis, were never undertaken. The purchase of 2 dialysis machines was always a political gimmick because there was nothing that you could do with them. You had nobody who was trained. You had no technicians who were in place in terms of, do we realize as Nevisians that even the quality of the water that is used can cause death if we're not handling that properly? So there's a whole ecosystem around dialysis, none of which was developed. So we brought machines, and interesting, as I always say, the machines were actually delivered on All Fools Day. And the machines arrived on April 1st. I'm sorry?
Yeah, I want to interject. What you're saying there about the dialysis, you had took a contingent to Guyana, right?
Yes.
And was promised not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5. How much you had the promise to take to come back and set up within a time frame? I know you had people training and stuff like that.
But I'm trying, and that's why I'm trying. I'm trying, Bankie, to explain. So perhaps if you give me an opportunity, and then the questions can come, because some of what you're asking might well be answered by me. No. What I'm trying to say is that dialysis requires an entire ecosystem. It is not a refrigerator, it is not a television that you just plug in. If you do that, people will die. All right? There's training that's required, there's equipment that's required, and most of all, there is a budget that's required. The issue that we had with dialysis is we call a number of dialysis centers. You mentioned Ghana. We went to Ghana, we had the conversations. You know what the first question they ask you every time? How many dialysis patients do you have? That's always the first question. Once you tell them you have 4, 5, 6 dialysis patients, they tell you the dance can't pay for the lights. And with that, the conversation is over. So there's a financial aspect to it. And the reality is here in Nevis, we have not been prepared to have a serious conversation about the cost of healthcare. How are we going to pay for it? That has been a serious question that nobody seems prepared to even begin to talk about. So the current arrangement that we have, remember we used to send patients to St. Martin and then to Anguilla. The current arrangement that we have is St. Kitts has invested in dialysis. And we take care of our patients being dialyzed in St. Kitts. The federal government has offered a particular rate, and we pay that for our patients. We assist them with their transportation back and forth. Is it the ideal situation? I would never say so, because I see these patients going back and forth. Many of them are very close friends of mine. And I said, well, it'd be nice if we could offer them that service on Nevis. But the reality is that even as we try to develop that service on Nevis, it is a matter that takes time, it takes resources, and we have a situation on our island where we have a number of different priorities that are competing for the same small resources. You both gentlemen are in agriculture. I'm sure you'll say agriculture needs more money. People in healthcare are saying healthcare needs more money. People in sport are saying sport needs more money. That is the reality of government. So for me, the question that I always ask is, are our patients able to access care? And are they able to access care at a level that we are comfortable with? And I think by and large, our dialysis patients have been able to access that care. The truth is, gentlemen, that we here in St. Kitts and Nevis sometimes, when I listen to the debates, Bankie, I know you've lived in America. Yahsonn, I think you've also lived in America or in Canada. You know sometimes the distance that one has to travel for care, distance one has to travel for services in the US. I was in a particular place in New York, and I asked them about a trauma center. And they said to me that while there's a hospital in that area, if somebody were to suffer some trauma, they got to medevac them to a more populous area of the state where they would have those types of facilities. So even in the wealthiest countries in the world, they don't have all the services available in the local community. They have to medevac people, they have to transport people. Here, the situation is that if you take the water taxi to St. Kitts, it's a 5 to 7 minute ride over, and then you take a 15-minute ride in a taxi or vehicle, and you're at your treatment center. We act here in Nevis sometimes as if that is the most egregious situation in the world. Less than a half an hour commute in order to be able to get treatment. I just feel sometimes that we need to step back, we need to look at development in a realistic way, and we need to understand that whilst every single illness and every single person matters, and every single person requires the best treatment, that we have to put in place a framework. And that is why I have been a strong advocate, for example, of getting our healthcare system, our national health insurance going. We have been banging on that door now for years. The federal government has not moved with any alacrity on it. And that has left us vulnerable because absent something like insurance, the question then will arise, will Nevisians be willing to pay something? Will we be willing to put our hands in our pocket to sustain a dialysis center? Because the cost is quite prohibitive. So these are some of the considerations that we've had to deal with. Now, if it is that dialysis was simply unavailable in the country, then I could understand the greater urgency to the argument. But we have dialysis less than half an hour away. And so we have been assisting our patients to be dialyzed. And as I said, whilst the ideal would be to have it at your fingertips, right in your neighborhood, so to speak, if that is not yet available, it is not that anybody is being deprived of the treatment, because the treatment is being made available to everybody who needs it. And as currently, I think we have 6 or 7 patients who benefit from that treatment at JNF, and that the government assisting in the financing of that for them. But we don't have the cost of running the entire infrastructure for dialysis as yet. We had said that we would seek to have dialysis as part of this new hospital wing, but we recognize that that project has been delayed. And so we are looking at various options. But I wanted to just give some background because, as I said, this is an issue that pops up all the time, and I'm not sure why. It is an emotional issue, perhaps, but the reality is that there are practical considerations here as impact any development, and any country that is serious about development has to look at these matters in the round.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, with 1 second, Bankie. I just wanted to follow up on what the Premier highlighted, because based on your explanation, then, Mr. Premier, then would it be fair to say then that when you campaigned to bring in the 4 or 5 from Guyana, 4 or 5 dialysis machines to not just support the 2 that was there, but to improve on the system, that was just political gimmick as well, because you probably would have known as well that this couldn't really go forward? But this is just based on what
Yes,
you would
son.
have said.
But no, it's important, I think, Yahsonn, that when we come to these programs, we come armed with facts. You say, when I campaigned, I've never ever campaigned on the issue of dialysis. Never. I made a visit to Guyana. Well, that's the language you use. So I'm just correcting you, because it's important that when we're on these programs, we have accurate information. People are listening. What I did was I made a visit to Guyana in order to look at the dialysis systems that they had there. And we engaged with a dialysis center there. Can't remember the name now, but we had an engagement there. If you recall, we actually had a young man from Bath, Lenny, who was living in Guyana and being dialyzed in Guyana. And so we went to Guyana to look at the system. And we reported on that trip in terms of what we saw there. So I don't take lightly to the idea that I was engaged with any gimmickry. I went to find out and to see and to get information. Similarly, we have engaged with various dialysis centers in the United States. We've called up a number of them, had conversations with them, but it always comes back to that fundamental question. You only have a few patients. Therefore, from an economic point of view, these dialysis centers aren't interested because the dance can't pay for the lights, to use a local expression. So we now have had to consider, how are we going to offer this service for a few persons and to offer it in a way that it doesn't bankrupt the island. And that is pretty much where we've been at. Now, we have not given up on it. It is a matter that we continue to assess, and a matter that we continue to try to implement. In fact, I am hopeful that we will have something in place sooner rather than later. But I just think that I need to be clear in terms of the record of this issue of dialysis on the island. And I don't take kindly to being accused of gimmickry, because those who know me know that that's not me. If I can do something, I say I will do it. If I cannot do it, I say I cannot do it. And so we went to Guyana on a fact-finding mission. That's what we sought to do.
Yes, I could remember. Yes.
Yeah, upon returning, that was where I guess the suggestion to add, whether it was for the other two that would have been there. So that is why I'm saying, based on what you would have said, in the sense that the first two would have been gimmickry, based on the other factors that you put in place, nobody was there to train and these other things. So then why suggest to add another 4 to the 2 that was there?
Well, but again, you need context, Yahsonn. You can't just ask me something without context. The point that we were trying to make all along is that you really couldn't have a dialysis unit with 2 machines. And that's still the case. If you're going to have a unit, you have to have maybe 6 to 8. I think in sync it's between 8 and 10. Because you have to have a situation. Remember, when a man is on dialysis, you can't stop halfway through, right? So you have to have backup, you have to have redundancy, you have to have all of those things. So if I would have said that we would have needed to add that, it is not the same as saying that I'm bringing in 4 additional units to add to the 2 to make 6 to open a unit. And I've never said that. I'm simply making the case that if you're going to put a unit together for Nevis, I would think you need at least 6 beds, 6 units, in order to make it sensible for the island. And that is a point that I've been trying to make, and the point that I would have made back then. So again, I don't think the gimmickry applies to that. I think gimmickry is when you order these machines, have them delivered, and you have no clue as to how you're going to offer the service. Because I said it's not a fridge or a stove, but not even a stove. It's not a fridge or TV. You can't just plug it in and tell it, okay, dialyze these people. That's not the way dialysis works. It's a very tricky business, very sophisticated and very complicated. If you don't have the right agents, reagents, people die. And I did not want that. I didn't want to be experimenting on people. And that has been our position throughout. What I would, however, urge that we consider is that even as some agitate and say we must have that service in Nevis, those patients that we do have that require dialysis are, in fact, getting treatment. They're not being deprived of treatment, and I want to emphasize that. And they're getting treatment with the assistance of the Nevis Island Administration.
Okay, the final question on this topic here. Let's say in the next 2 years, the hospital wing get finished and stuff like that, and the funding is available. Will there be a dialysis unit Will that
Yes.
unit be available?
In fact, if we can, we're trying to work on certain things now, and if we can manage those, we may have a unit even sooner than that. But yes, that was always a part of the plan.
Okay, let's move forward. Yahsonn, let me touch a little bit on agriculture. I visited the abattoir lately, so just want to give some big up to Gary Griffin and to let the listener viewing audience know he already taken orders for the Christmas ham. He'll be having some turkey also available. Also, they have the rotisserie chicken, especially if you put in the order for stuff like these. And he'll push in the market to try to hit at least 600 hams for the Christmas and stuff
It's
like that. So,
interesting. We got two Rasta man here promoting ham and chicken, but that's good. Things
don't give it
change.
to me and Gary. Don't give it to me and Gary. Don't give it to me and
All
Gary.
right.
Gotta big up the abattoir and stuff like that, and all those areas that been doing well within the agricultural sector. Gotta definitely do that, guys. This is the time where people coming in for the Christmas season and some traveling to Antigua, and the abattoir is one of that area where you can get your fresh. And also will be available is some turkey. Will be limited amount, and some local chicken and stuff like that. So definitely remember you can get also your the different choice cuts. Also when it comes to your ground beef, your turkey, and whatever it is. Where you don't see, just ask for. Okay, you have at least over 27 different choice cuts and different sandwiches and stuff like that available. So definitely go and check out the abattoir. As you can see, some of this stuff available right there. So big up your boy Gary Griffin. But also, Premier, well, I'm not sure if you realize in St. Kitts where they have a feed crisis, where there ain't no feed in St. Kitts right now. So I'm made to understand a lot of the chickens them down there for the eggs, they are molting, they're picking each other because of some situation within the ministry and stuff like that. And the poultry industry is a very, very large industry. I know you have talk about setting up a processing unit. I know this so what happened in Singapore affect Nevis because now the feed is also being privatized within a few of the different private businesses in St. Kitts, and even up to coming up to the seeds and drip lines and the other inputs when it comes for farmers and so forth, also going to be privatized and no longer going to be subsidized by the government. And there haven't been any kind of consultation with people like me or anyone within the industry. What I know, Nevis have started some excavation and so on the processing unit, especially coming to these times. What have been going on the project with the poultry project and stuff like that? As I said, in prospect, any updates on that?
Yeah, well, Bankie, it's interesting you asked me that because I think it was just 2 weeks ago I asked. We have Ministers Evelyn and Brand who have been assisting each other and leading on that particular project. We secured the financing for it, and I really thought that project would have been well out of the ground by now. What they indicated is that we're using a particular technology and some people out of Canada to build the unit. And it looks like there were two problems. One, apparently there was a delay in terms of the materials. And two, there was a delay in terms of some changes to the plans that had to be made. So they indicated that those matters were being finalized. And so we expect that things are being shipped. I think some containers have arrived. Some other containers, I was told, were on the way. That is with the materials. And then the expectation is that once we can finalize those matters, we would get going. It's disappointing because, and I did express my disappointment, but unfortunately, this is the nature of supply sometimes and supply chains around the world. So we have had those delays, which are really not of our making, but outside our control. The expectation, though, they're suggesting that once that starts, it should proceed quickly to completion because of the nature of the technology that they're using for construction. So we're anticipating that we will have that facility up and running, and hopefully that will happen in the new year. And then once we have done that, we can then start to talk about having a poultry industry on the island, meaning that individuals interested in rearing birds can rear those birds and then they will be processed at that central processing facility, similar to the abattoir, the way that system is working. That is the anticipation. So it's a project that I think is important. We've been talking a lot about food security. CARICOM has made some commitments, as you know, to make us more self-sufficient in terms of certain products. I think we're lagging behind those commitments, but certainly with some push on our part, we could get there chicken, many people do not know or appreciate, is actually the most consumed protein in St. Kitts and Nevis. It's the most consumed meat kind. So we eat a lot of chicken. And frankly, I am not always persuaded that the chicken that we're getting from overseas is the best quality or is good for us. We don't know what's in it. And sometimes I think when you see some of the chicken that we see and the size, you realize that clearly they look like there's some kind of bionic chicken that we're getting here sometimes. So we have to be mindful that some of the diseases that we are seeing, some new variations of diseases, the preponderance of NCDs, non-communicable diseases, that some of that may well be conclusively linked to what we're eating. And a lot of us are eating food and we don't know where that food is coming from or what's in that food. So the more that we can produce locally, the better it is for us. I'm an avid supporter of agriculture in all of its forms. I mean, I even try to do my own little thing in my garden at home. And I continue to be amazed at the amount of food that you can produce on a little area of land.
Yes, sir.
The amount of bananas I get, I mean, I have bananas to give away, pumpkin. I have a pumpkin vine. They look like you want to take over the whole of the land. Every time I go there's pumpkin. I reap pumpkin up to this morning. So the reality is
Nice.
that we can do some things for ourselves. And one of the things that I've been pushing hard is that everybody looks to government. And I understand that. But everybody looks to government for the solutions. But some of the solutions we have in our own hands. We're building more and more substantial properties all across Nevis now. Young people are investing in land and house. And I see people putting up some fantastic palm trees and some ficus and some other these things. Right? Oleander and I can't remember all the rest names them, but nice ornamentals. And I'm saying, but you could do that, yes, but you could also landscape with some coconut palms. You can landscape with some mango tree. You can landscape with golden apple. You can landscape with other things that at the end of the day will bear some fruit and help us feed ourselves. So that's one of the things that I've been pushing. Don't just leave it to government and say it's government's responsibility. Agriculture is everybody's responsibility, and food is an essential part of our lives. We can plant food at home too. We can plant a little garden. We can do something. A lot of people complain about the cost of living. But every time I pick a pumpkin, I have a family of, it used to be 4, my daughter married now, so she gone. So 3 of us. And I pick a pumpkin can feed that family for a week. I pick a bunch of bananas, we have bananas for a week. When the bananas, you can't eat enough when they start to ripe. You got smoothie, you got all kind of things. So the reality is that we can do more to help ourselves as well, and I encourage people also to do that. But you asked questions specifically about the processing facility. I'm hopeful that will come to fruition in the new year.
Yes. One more thing when it comes to financing, 'cause I know a lot of people, both male, female, different age group, have an interest in the poultry. 'Cause I know that was in the beginning where if someone have 300 birds, 500 birds, those large ones going to have 3,000 birds or 4,000 birds. But for those smaller ones, will the government seek with any lenders where they can assist some of these young people who want to have a 300-400 single family? Because there are people who are really interested in this industry, and they've been reaching out to me, so I'm asking this question for them in a sense when it comes to small funding.
Right. So one of the things we want to do is we want to utilize SSZ a bit more. That's a small enterprise development unit. We have helped a number of people. I think you all are aware that during COVID, we secured 5 million EC dollars from Taiwan, and we have been on-lending that money in tranches of up to 100,000 because we wanted to spread it as wide as we could. I am not sure what the cost implications would be for the 300 birds or the 500 birds, as the case may be. But I think that we would want to do something through SSZ to partner with small businesses, micro businesses that want to get into this. There are also some people, though, who I think can do it and do it quite effectively on their own, meaning that they have the resources and they should be able to set up. So I think that what we want is a mix of possibilities. It would be great for people to use it. A cottage industry can develop, and then we can assist in ways that we assist. As you know, the agricultural sector is one of those sectors that perhaps is the most heavily subsidized sector in the country in terms of just assistance that farmers get, other businesses don't get. It's as simple as that. I mean, so we will continue to try to assist as best as we can, especially in the early stages, because we want this industry to come off. So that is where we are on this.
One of the questions that most of the people want to know and want me to ask is, how broke is the NI? Because it seems like finance seems to be a serious issue when it comes to the airport, when it comes to the hospital, just regular project, whether it's come to road in the community, housing. So they want an answer. So I'm not sure how you're going to answer that one.
How broke? The government is always broke. I mean, it's not, when you say how broke, you got more broke than less broke. Broke is broke.
Yes.
That means if you don't have,
no, because
when you're broke, you don't have the money to do all the things you
There's
need to
different
do.
type of broke because the hospital would have done and the airport would have done and just would have done. So that's the kind of broke they want to know.
No, I don't.
Yeah, that's
agree.
what I want to know.
I don't agree. No,
Yes.
I don't agree. And I think, again, we have to have an appreciation of development.
Yes.
What you're describing are what we call capital projects, right?
Yes.
You're not broke because you cannot fulfill a capital project commitment, because most capital projects can wait. If I say I'm going to resurface a road and I don't have the financing to resurface the road may still be usable. Yeah.
Yes.
When you tend to ask whether government is broke is whether or not the government is covering its necessary expenditure. So are we paying our salaries? Are we paying our debt? Are we paying for our supplies, etc.? Right? What you're talking about when you mention airport and hospital, those are capital projects. The airport project, we have secured the financing on the airport project. So we're just really waiting to start that project. On the hospital, I mentioned earlier, we have a financing gap that we're trying to sort out. So that is not an indication of brokenness. That's really an indication of whether or not you can source the capital. Because countries around the world, that's what they do. For capital projects, if you cannot do it from revenue, and Nevis can manage, $50, $60 million projects from revenue. So if you can't do it from revenue, you have to either get loans, or sometimes, if you're fortunate, you get some kind of donation. That is the way that capital projects work. So I'd want to differentiate that, because when you look at development, you have to, the day-to-day running of government is what, to my mind, would determine whether or not we're broke or not. But I like to tell people that Nevis government is always broke. So we don't have money. And so what we try to do is to do the best that we can with the little that we have. And that has always been the case here in Nevis. We're constantly sort of on the edge. And it comes back to that whole question. I know you said you're going to get into this whole SSZ and all of that. We have been really struggling on this island. And I keep saying to our people that at 13,500 people, only of those 6,500 or so who are working, productive, how are you going to build a country when you want an airport that costs 50 million US? You want a hospital which costs 20 million. You want roads which cost 20 and 30 million. We have to, I think, have a serious conversation about where we're going and about development for an island this size. Because the appetite of our people for infrastructure is the same appetite of them living in America and Canada. But where you could charge a man in America $5 for a toll, but there are 100,000, 200,000 people crossing that bridge every day. It can't happen here. And so we need creative ways. We need innovative ways. We need to find new ways of thinking in order to move Nevis forward. The traditional models. And that's why I sit back sometimes and I see a lot of our Nevisian brothers and sisters. They are living and have lived for the most part of their lives, pay their taxes, do all that they do somewhere else other than Nevis. And the question that many of them have not been prepared to answer, because they have all the opinions on Nevis. But what I find is that they're not offering any solutions. So they tell you all that is wrong with Nevis. But are you finding ways to assist us to develop this island and to move the island forward? Because if all you do is sit back and point out, it's like a man sitting in the pavilion, and every shot that the batsman tries to play, he says, boy, that's a bad shot. But he will never put on pads and go in the field.
But the model is there already, right? We have a model there already that works well.
When you say the model is there already that works, what do you mean? What's the model?
This is one of the model again. You reference Four Seasons many times throughout when you speak on the SSZ as one of the model that we have the closest thing, which is what 350 to 500 acres of land, and
Right.
apparently these developers have at least 1,700 acres of land. One of the things most of the people I spoke to up to this afternoon, this evening coming home, one of them said, "Tell the Premier we don't have an issue with development, Can't we have 3 or 4 more Four Seasons within the same area in a sense like that? Can't that work? Why it got to be this specific development?" Yes.
Bankie, let me ask you the question. If Bankie King were to have 2,000 acres of land and develop 4 hotels on the 2,000 acres of land.
Yes.
4 Four Seasons. A Four Seasons, a Ritz-Carlton, an Amman, and a Marriott.
Yes.
4 hotels.
Yes.
Or each of those have 500 acres of land and develop, each one develop a hotel. Yes. What is the difference, in your opinion, of those 2 scenarios?
Same thing, because it's not a zone. It just is the hotel. They would employ at least 800 people apiece. They probably build some villas.
But I'm just trying to focus on
the special. I'm
just trying to focus on the amount of land. I'm trying to deal with that discrete issue.
That's the reason why. That's the reason why the general public asked me to ask this question. Can something like this be done instead of that's what the masses asking. That's what I'm asking the same question.
So I understand the question you've posed. I'm just putting it back to you and to the audience to say that if you had 4 people with 500 acres each, like a Four Seasons,
of course,
it's 2,000 acres, isn't it? 4 times 500 is 2,000. Okay.
Yes.
If you had one man with 2,000 and he said, "I'm going to do 4 developments in the 2,000 acres, 500 acres each."
Yes.
Not 6 or 1/2 dozen of the other?
No, but when they said this, they mean without the special rules, the special bill that was placed. Why? Just like that's the reason. That's the part they're having with this. They don't have. Let me clarify it first. Let me clarify it first. The general public don't have an issue. Because they want me to make it be known to you. They don't have an issue with the development.
Don't talk for the general public.
Issue. I have to talk to them. I have to talk to them. I have to. Well, I have
to.
I have
speak to you. A couple people speak to you.
Well, you don't know how much people speak to me, so you can't say that later. So me could speak. That's the difference.
I hear you.
So you see where I'm coming from. You see where I'm coming from. Yes. What they have an issue with is the special legislation and rules and all this different stuff where the native themselves don't have obligation to these special rules the same way and stuff like that. So why can't it be the regular development like the Marriott, like the Four Seasons, those type of development? Why have to be something like that? That is the main.
Okay.
Yes.
Bankie, it's a good question, and the short answer is that this is an innovation. This is an attempt to attract investors of a different kind. Yes. We have had the hotel aids legislation in place for a long time. We've had a number of incentives in place for a long time. And the traditional hotel development has simply not come. We've had a number of opportunities in the past that have not materialized. I believe we had a Ritz-Carlton hotel that was supposed to come to Nevis some years ago that, frankly, it's very similar to what's happening now. You had a lot of noise, and that did not materialize. We have had opportunities in the past that have simply not come forward. We've had some small developments that have been successful, like Paradise Beach, Mount Nevis, and the expansion they've done there, etc. But in terms of a large, significant investment, that has not come. What we have sought to do with the SSZ is to create a particular type of model to say if there are individuals interested in this, where they have a special economic zone. And I want to emphasize that all around the world, there are special economic zones. The reason why the word special is utilized is because they have special rules that apply to them that do not apply in the rest of the country. I have asked repeatedly in my public discussions for people to do some research on the DIFC in Dubai, the Dubai International Financial Center. It's one of the most successful SEZs in the world. and it has a completely different system of laws to the rest of Dubai. When you go into the DIFC, for example, it's the English common law that applies inside there. They have their own court system, etc. They did that because they wanted to provide that innovation to drive Dubai and drive Dubai's development forward. What we're trying to do here in Nevis is new to Nevis, but it's not new to the world. And what we're trying to do is to say, all right, let's take a model which is known to the world, the SEZ, Special Economic Zone. They have them all across the Americas, all across Canada, United States, Latin America, Jamaica, Cayman. Let's take a model. Even Anguilla just announced an SEZ. Let's take a model that is known and let us see how we can refine that model, twin it with sustainability to make that the cornerstone of it, and see whether or not we can attract investors who are willing to come in to do something like that. No, that doesn't exclude Bankie, the man who wants to do a hotel the ordinary way, or the regular way, like Four Seasons. But it provides another avenue, right? It's no different, to, say, the financial services sector that we have. We offer a company which is an international business company. A man may argue and say, well, I don't have an IBC, so why you bring an LLC, a limited liability company? It's a different product. And while one person may want an LLC, another man may want an IBC. So it is just a question of offering options to investors. When they come in, they say, well, all right, I would like to do this, or I would like to do that, as the case may be. It's called diversification, and clearly we need to diversify.
One of the concerns that I realize also that most people are asking, how exactly will the government benefit with all these, how do we make in all this money so that the government will get all this money back from, how that work? How do we make it? Because it seems like a lot of people have it where the people going to be living inside there, and who living inside there, I guess they're not paying any taxes or this and that. So how will they be making the money so that the money can wrap up to so much millions and billions? Where that money going to be, how that will work?
So in terms of Nevis, and that's what I'm concerned about, in terms of how does Nevis benefit, we have said to these developers that we want them to join us in developing the Long Point port. We see that as a major development that can fuel the economy in Nevis for the next 30, 40 years. If you have a port facility, we can use that port, for example, for transshipment, even to some of the neighboring islands. We can have some of those companies, Tropical and others, who actually do more business here if we have the infrastructure. We have said to them that we want them to jointly develop our healthcare infrastructure, our hospital and health facilities. That inures to the benefit, again, of everybody on the island. And, of course, we've been talking a lot about medical tourism and the opportunity for people to come in for services here. And why not, if we have, again, the infrastructure? We have discussed with them some direct monetary contributions to the NIA, and those have been widely publicized. But we are also looking at the overall growth in the local economy. You know, I had a conversation, because as you know, we've had a number of stakeholder engagements, and one of them was with the hotel and tourism stakeholders. And one of the hoteliers said that they would normally have a weekly event, and sometimes they can't have the event because we just don't have a number of people, so the demand is not there. And I said to them, well, part of the difficulty we have in terms of that is just we don't have enough people. Nevisians don't like sometimes to hear that. They don't like to hear that conversation. But when you're thinking about development and you're thinking about sustainability, you also have to think about people. Do you have the people that can drive development? Do you have the people that can sustain our island? And the truth be told, yes.
Honorable Premier,
yes.
I listened to that conversation, right? And I wonder, why is it that then, if this is one of the arguments in terms of wanting more people, why do we scoff at more CARICOM integration? Why are we not looking at bringing more people via CARICOM integration? We had the issues with Haitians and some of our brothers and sisters in the Caribbean. I remember when the option of Haiti came about, there was a huge pushback saying, with the infrastructure.
So Yahsonn, let us again be and have, when we're talking, I like to have realistic conversations. Haiti has 11 million or so people. right? And if you were to simply say, we want more people, full stop, then I agree with you. You open the door and you let as many people come as possible. But if you just get more people, as opposed to getting people of means to come, then you end up in a situation where everybody who comes want a job, want housing, want then for you to take care of them. And so we have to be pragmatic that as an island, we want people, but we also want people who can invest, people who can create jobs, people who can take care of themselves. That's also important to us. So when I talk about more people, I'm not saying more people in a vacuum. I'm saying we want people who can come in and who can contribute in a meaningful way to the development of the island. People who are not going to arrive on the island and say to you and me as the taxpayers here, well, I come with my two long hand. You now must find me shelter. You must find me food. You must find me all of those things. Right? You need people who come in. I heard a debate, and there's been a lot of interesting debates around this SSZ idea.
Mr. Premier.
Yes.
1 second, let me interject, Mr. Premier.
Yes.
Because I think sometimes when we have these discussions, we do look at it in a sort of biased way, so to speak, because even using Haiti, for example, there are a lot of rich companies and millionaire people living in Haiti as well. It's not just the average people who we see on TV who lives in Haiti. And my comment also wasn't just limited to Haiti. I spoke to CARICOM, the wider CARICOM, and there are other businesses and people who are in CARICOM who will be willing to come to these parts of the world to the business if given the same opportunity that you're seeking to give them.
But Yahsonn, but you see, this is why I don't understand. That's why your argument is flawed, because we have never closed the door to anybody. So if you say their company is willing to come, well, where's that willingness being demonstrated? None of them have approached and said, why we want to come to Nevis and we want to do something in Nevis. CARICOM is there, and we are open to CARICOM nationals, our brothers and sisters. We have freedom of movement currently within the OECS. That is why we see now, for example, many Dominicans and people like that who are coming in and taking up jobs in some of the sectors on Nevis, right? There's complete freedom of movement within the OECS. So if you're from St. Lucia and you decide tomorrow, man, let me move to Nevis, you have the freedom to do that, right?
Right. That's the OECS. That's the OECS. Right. So why not open to the wider CARICOM, which is the bigger picture?
Yeah, but
since we're really looking for more
yeah,
people
I hear you and you're saying that, but I'm saying that opening to the wider CARICOM without more may result in a situation where tomorrow you got thousands of people who descend on the island and then say to us, hey, listen, we reach now because you're open to us. And so we want places in school, we want bigger hospital, we want this, we want that, and we want the other. And you and I now have to figure out how to provide that. The biggest countries in the world now are crying over immigration. Why? Because illegal immigration in those countries, and I know we're not talking about illegal immigration in your example, but I'm using that for my example. Illegal immigration, that is uncontrolled immigration into those countries, is putting a strain on their resources. When we're talking about people coming here is my focus. I'm talking about people coming here for jobs. That's important. But we have to create jobs in order for people to come for those jobs. I'm talking about our own people in the diaspora. Many of them who are on your feet tonight and have the most to say. And I'm saying to them, well, I come home and invest a little something too. Come home and invest a little something. If you all love Nevis so much, man, do a little something here. Fix up your grandmother's old house. Buy a little piece of land. Own a little folk club. Do something on the island. Demonstrate, not just by being a Facebook warrior, but demonstrate that you have a commitment here. You come and you start a little farm, you start a little business.
But for me,
you even sell,
are they not doing that?
I'm sorry?
I'm just asking, are they not, some of them not doing what you speak? No, just Bankie, saying what you're speaking of. Are some of them not doing that?
Bankie, the reason I'm making the appeal, because if we can generate that level of activity by our own Nevisian diaspora, we may not have to be talking about no destiny and nobody else, because we have people out there who have the means. I know one or two partners of mine, they don't own nothing in Nevis, but they man own mansions elsewhere and are continually investing elsewhere, right? And so I am appealing to our people and saying to our people, listen, you can't have it both ways. You can sit down in New York and in Texas and in Washington and try to dictate to us what we must do home here when you yourself aren't helping. If you're in a position to help, I'm not saying everybody is, But a lot of our people are in a position where they can assist in the development of Nevis if only they took the interest. So I am always concerned that our people need to step up, because I ideally would like, if we're going to build our population, we build it from within. So it don't make no sense we tell our people to have more children, because they're not going to do it, right? When we were discussing the last census report that came, there were 2 young women in the room, and I said to them, Nevis needs population. What would it take for them to have more children? And they said, no amount of gold, no amount of silver could cause them to have any more children. And I think one had 1 and the other one had 2, right? So, and it's the same around the world. Anytime a community starts to become a bit more affluent, they stop having children. The days of 10 and 12 and 15 children, those days are over.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Well, just to finish, if we're going to build the community, Yahsonn, I agree with you. We must, of course, be open to Caribbean brothers and sisters. We are. We have to build it from within. More Nevisians need to take an interest, come home, or if they're not in a position to come home, invest something at home. Help us to grow. Help us to develop. It can't be that you get up every morning and you cuss on social media. That is not developing. That is not creating one job in Nevis. We need to do more than that. And then we also need foreign investment. Every country in the world needs foreign investment. Tonight, as I watch CNN, the Saudis have just said they're going to invest $1 trillion in the United States. So every country is out there looking for foreign investment. We need a mix of those if we're going to develop. But we must come to grips on the island with the fact that we need people. We can't develop the country without people.
We need
okay,
people.
Yes, we're going to take a break.
I'll do the comments. But I wanna get in this point here. We do need people, Mr. Bankie. However, the people who are here also need to be empowered. Let's use, for example.
You think people here are not being empowered? Give me an example. Give me what you mean by empowerment.
So this is what I'm gonna allude to now. Here is it that in the government, speaking from their perspective, they look at and this is one of the reasons also why the SSZ is being put in place, because seemingly whatever other means of generating revenue would have not been as successful, or some might have been successful up to a certain point, but have dwindled like CBI to some extent. So here is it now. This is a new innovation, an innovative way of generating funds, as you're putting it, right? However, but when we speak to the benefits of this project, we're hearing a lot of the possibility of jobs. When here is it that we created, so to speak, or we went through the process of creating an industry with the hopes, because that's the argument that was presented from the government, that this is going to be the next CBI, or cash revenue generator, which would have been the cannabis industry. Now, that industry proposes opportunities for not just foreign investors to benefit, but a lot of opportunities for locals to benefit, and locals to not just be getting jobs, but locals becoming entrepreneurs and agripreneurs in some cases. But we are not seeing the same level of interest being put into seeking to develop that industry that could not just empower foreign investors as well, but empower our local people in terms of the promotion. And I mean, look at what the government is doing right now to try to get the people convinced that Destiny is the next best thing since sliced bread. If we were getting even a fraction, even a quarter of this kind of promotion for the cannabis industry to empower our people, that would be grateful. Why are we not getting that level of interest to seek to simulate an industry that could empower our people more versus an industry that would be more empowering those who already are rich?
You ain't gonna answer that right now, Premier. Let me get into some of the comments first, and then we can come back at that and so forth. Because that's gonna take up some more time. So Yahsonn, in the meanwhile, go to get through some of the comments them and let the listener view and audience know the telephone lines are open. If anyone wanna call or have a question for the Premier themselves, just be cordial, concise with your questions, and so at least we're getting as much calls as possible. Yahsonn, go ahead.
Okay, so the numbers are 1-869-665-8459 or 1-869-662-7196. Those are the numbers to call in if you want to be a part of the program. As we go through some of the comments, let's see what's going on here on the YouTube platform. So usually these platforms get pretty busy. So let's see, we've got Dottie Brown saying it's true if you work for Destiny, you will be considered. Oh, sorry, they're asking a question. Is it true if you work for Destiny, you will be considered self-employed? I don't know what that really means, but
Yeah, so let me take this call coming in here.
Okay.
Let me take this call here. Caller, good evening. You're live on the topics.
Good night, Bankie. How are you?
I'm all right, good night.
Hope all is well.
Yes, I'm good.
I have a few questions for the Premier.
Yes, go ahead, please.
I'm not hearing so well. I'm not hearing so well.
Well, I know the Premier always says that people abroad don't come home and invest in their country. But I, as a local, know that the Premier owns a lot of different things. For example, like Caribbean home and different things. Why the Premier himself don't, I'm not saying he has to, but he can create jobs for local people as well. He have things in position to do that. If you understand what I'm saying. And the next question I would like to ask, because I see the Premier for a long while, only the Premier was strongly pushing this Destiny thing. Meaning nobody in cabinet, I just started seeing Spencer Fan and the rest folks chipping in now. Why is the government pushing so hard for Destiny and putting it out there that, yeah, Destiny is such a big thing? That's all I would like to say.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Can I try to answer?
Of course. Go ahead.
I heard. The caller is asking me why it is I'm not doing more to create jobs. And you're right, caller. All of us need to do more. So I'm not exempting myself from that. But I'm equally saying that you've just taken the time to call in. You could do something too. Employ somebody, start a little business. And if each of us did that, then the island would be empowered and the economy would be strengthened. That's my simple point. You said the government is pushing Destiny. Bankie and Yahsonn, here's my difficulty with some of the commentary that I'm hearing in Nevis. Yes. The first accusation that came against this government is that this whole project was a secret and there was no information. I said that I would be willing to speak when I had something in front of me. And when I got something in front of me, I started to speak about it. I've come on this show. I've been on various shows speaking about it and saying this is what is proposed. Now the narrative has changed. We don't want to hear nothing from you. You come in pushing the project. We want to hear from the project people themselves. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm the Premier of Nevis. And if I had decided, Bankie, not to say anything, the accusation would be, oh, it's a big secret and you don't realize you're not saying nothing. We can't continue to just shift the goalposts as we go. The government has a responsibility to inform the people of Nevis what is proposed and what is happening. If some decide to interpret that as the government selling the project, then that is their interpretation. I am sharing information with the public as I am required to do. It is my duty and as is my nature. I am not somebody to hide anything from the people of Nevis. So I come to you and I tell you this is what is proposed. I don't see that there's anything wrong with that or that there's any need for me to apologize, because if it were the contrary, I would be accused that we are not being forthright and open with the people of Nevis. So I just wanted to make that very clear.
We have a next call here. Caller, go ahead. Go ahead, caller.
I earned my comment. My name is Winston Welcome. And straight to questions. Have you, in your administration, encountered
conflict of interest. One. Number two, with this SSZ zone that you are pushing, wouldn't it have been more respectful to consult with the people before things has gone so far, instead of working backward, instead of working from backwards, you move from front going to the back in terms of consulting the people? That's the question. I will leave it there.
I appreciate it,
I would
Carla.
like an answer.
All right, thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, the caller says, as an administration, have we encountered conflict of interest? Nevis is a small place. You get conflict of interest arising all the time. The question is not whether you encounter it. The question is, how do you deal with it if it arises? And so I'm not sure where the question was going, but of course we get conflicts of interest that arise, and then we have to deal with it in a particular way. You asked about whether we should consult before things have gone far. That's the language used. I'm not sure what things have gone so far, caller. The government has not signed any agreement. There's no project that has been agreed to at this point. I have been at pains to point that out. We have had a number of consultations on the project. So if we're having consultations on the project before any agreement is signed for any project, then why it is you say things have gone so far? How far have they gone? I'm not understanding it. It is not as if we signed off on a project and then we come after the fact to tell the people, boy, we signed this thing last week. That is not what we're doing. We are having discussions on the proposed project. That has always been the case. We have said so. The developers have said so. So I am not sure sometimes what people are saying. It is difficult to have a debate when people just make up their own story and come with you and tell you, listen, this is our story. If the caller is really trying to say there was no consultation on the SSZ legislation, that's an entirely different matter. That's an entirely different matter. And I keep saying to people, please make a distinction between the legislation that was passed and a project that has come that is proposed under that legislation. The project is being widely consulted on. Widely consulted on. So far, we've had a number of meetings.
Question.
Yes.
One of the question again is this project a CBI project?
So the project has a component which is CBI, meaning that people can apply for CBI, but it's not compulsory.
So
if you're investing in that project and you would like to apply for CBI, then the understanding is that you can, but you're not required to.
But I know one of the requirements is that to live within that zone, I'm starting to be corrected, the application fees must be paid, the CBI, something like that, the application fee?
Yes.
So,
yes, but you do not, but it doesn't mean that you have to apply. It's just a revenue measure. I'm not hearing you, Bankie. I lost you. Bankie, we're not hearing you.
Yes. Sorry about that. Which means it's more or less similar to a CBI project in somewhat, because if the registration application fees have to be paid once you're going to live within that zone, it means the CBI accruing money off of every citizen.
Yes, but it doesn't mean that those. It doesn't mean that those investors will apply. So I'm trying to draw a distinction.
I understand, but
it's like a fee that you pay, right? But it doesn't mean you have to apply.
But I'm saying the fee is going to the CBI because the application fee. So either way, they're making money out of half of every citizen. So so it's a way of bringing in money.
I wouldn't say off of every citizen. I would say off of every investor. A citizen would mean that you've applied and you've been granted. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Have a call coming in here. Yahsonn. Yes. Caller. Good evening.
Hello. Good evening. This is Livingstone Williams. What I would like to ask the Premier is, when is there going to be the next town hall meeting, and when are they going to consult with the landowners?
That's it. Okay, thank you, caller.
Yeah, at
Yeah.
this point,
Do you get?
in response to Livy, we do not have another general town hall meeting that's scheduled. We have a meeting, I think, tomorrow with the teachers at their request. I think we meet at NEPAC with the teaching fraternity tomorrow. And we will then consider whether or not there's a need for us to have any further meetings. Because the truth is we've covered a lot of ground in terms of these various meetings already. We've met with the business community. We've met with the hoteliers. We've met with the church community. We met with the members of the opposition. We've met with the police. We have met with the media. We have met with the 6 farmers. And we're going to be meeting with the teachers. And we had a general meeting with the general public. So that is where we are. Now, what was the second question? I think he asked something else. He asked about any more meetings.
The landowners. Meet with the landowners.
The landowners. We have not, as a government, decided that we're going to have any meetings with the landowners. I'm not sure what the relevance of that would be. The landowners, as we have said, they have their land, and if they want to sell their land, they do, and if they don't want to sell it, they don't. It's a matter for them. So that's a private matter between them, as it would be for you or I or anybody else who owns a piece of property. If we're approached, we either decide we're going to sell or we're not going to sell. So that's where we are. So I don't know what a meeting between us and landowners is intended to achieve, because certainly the government will not be telling landowners to sell, and we will not be telling landowners not to sell. We're telling landowners it's a matter for them because they're the owners of their land, not the government. So I don't know about that. I also will say that in terms of landowners in that particular area, I'm advised that you have most of the land, the large acreages are owned by only a few landowners. I think about 10 landowners own about over 1,500 acres. But the other landowners who own like quarter acre and things of that are quite numerous. At one point I was saying it's over 200. I was told that it's in fact over 400. So some of them can't even be found because, families have passed on and things of that nature. Many of them left here 30, 40 years ago. I'm just not sure about a meeting with landowners and what is it we have to meet with landowners to say or not to say, as the case may be. Landowners will have to decide whether they're going to sell their land or they're not, whether they're going to lease it, sell it, or whatever they're going to do with it. Or in some instances, I'm told that they're offering swaps of land. So you can get land someplace else on the island in exchange at an exchange rate of 1.5 to 1. So that really is a matter for landowners. So, Mr. Williams,
I know one of the question here that someone asking is when it comes to you said it's only if someone want to invest in the CBI for the citizenship. If the sale of passport, will the money stay? Wondering if the money will stay in Nevis or all this passport money, or it will be shared with the federal government.
No,
Also,
CBI is federal, Bankie. Yes. So anytime you hear federal, CBI,
yes.
it's an engagement with the federal government. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yahsonn, you wanted to say something?
Yeah. I wanted to go back a little bit to something the Premier was highlighting. He said that he wants the public to differentiate between the SSZ bill or act and the development, the Destiny project development that is being discussed. And he's highlighting the fact that it is the Destiny's project that is being consulted on, or the consultations are being done on. Okay, now here's a little challenge that I have, and I guess maybe I would need a little bit of clarity, because I think the development, so to speak, is hinged upon the bill. The bill facilitates the development. Am I correct in that sequence?
No. The bill provides a framework for that or any other development that wants to be an SSZ. So if put differently, Yahsonn, if this development tomorrow were to go away, it's not going to happen. The developers say, listen, we're gone. The bill remains. And you or Bankie or anybody else can come and say, listen, I have an acre land and I want an SSZ. So all the bill does, it creates a framework. And that's why I'm saying people are confusing the two. People are saying repeal the bill because they don't agree with this particular project. And I'm saying, no, evaluate the two things separately. the project is a particular project that has been proposed. That is what we are consulting the public on. The bill has already been passed, and all the bill does, it creates a framework. That is all the bill does. No zone can be created under that bill unless there's an agreement. So what our attention should be focused on is what is in that agreement.
Okay, so
Yahsonn,
yes.
There was a sitting where the Premier mentioned where they cannot repeal the bill, the act or something like that. What because of the investment of the investors and stuff like that, and not casting the NIA, anything like that. So all these town hall meetings and all this different stuff, who is facilitating, who is covering the cost for all these things? The town halls.
The government is engaging with the people of Nevis. So the government is engaging with the people of Nevis to share information from a government perspective. Who do we expect to cover it? Okay. It has to be the government. We are the ones who are coming to the people of Nevis to have an engagement with them about a particular project. Right? We can't have an engagement with you about a project, and those who are proposing the project are the ones who are paying. Somebody mentioned conflict of interest. That is one of the issues.
I understand that is one of the reasons why people are asking why is the government, especially you, are the PRO for Destiny in a sense like that, as you said earlier.
Bankie, if you call me and tell me, Mr. Brantley is Premier, I want you to come on the show to talk about this project. And I tell you, Bankie, no, me not come because people are going to send me a PRO for the project. Well, what is it people want from me? I'm the Premier of Nevis. If I have something that is before me, I work for the people of Nevis. I must not report to them. I must not tell them what is proposed. And that's what I'm saying. People are vacillating. 1 minute they say, we don't have enough information. The government is not telling us what's going on. Next minute them say, the government that talk too much. Mark Brantley is a PRO for Destiny. So what is it people exactly want? They want information or they don't want information? Because frankly, I am here tonight because I feel it is part of my duty as Premier to engage with our people. But if through engaging with our people I'm then accused of this, that, and the other, all I'm doing is sharing information. As I continue to say, the alternative is that when you call me, I say I'm not available. When Van called me and everybody called me, I say, I got nothing to say. Then the same people, Bankie, I assure you, will say, boy, them a hide something, them a do all of this in secret, them not talk to the people. We elect them to let us know what's going on, and they're not telling us anything. It's the whole, notion of we just sometimes have to do what we know we need to do, and we leave the rest. My job is to provide information. If someone want to say that makes me a PRO, well, I'm a PRO for Nevis, so that's okay.
So the question is, Yahsonn, you have somebody online?
Yes. So I was going to say I got a question, too, but I got a caller, so let me just facilitate the caller. Caller, good evening.
Good evening. I have a few quick questions. The first one is, has there been any research done on what the impact of this development would have on the economy outside of the zone? And then my other question is, it was said in one of the consultations that the investors are holding firm to wanting to maintain control of, so to speak, policing inside the zone. Do you not see this as a means of them creating the free society that they have proposed in the past and it's all over the internet? And then my last question is, will the citizens inside of the zone have a right to bear arms? That's it.
I didn't get the last two questions. Forgive me. I got the first one, but the last two.
The last one would be if the citizens within the zone would be allowed to bear arms. I don't remember the second one, so ask the second one.
The second one is it was said that the developers are holding firm to wanting to maintain control of the policing within the zone. I know you said that they're going to be under the DPP, but they seem to want to maintain control of like punishment and that kind of stuff for stuff that happens within the zone. Do you not see this as a means for them to create the free society that they have been, well, some of the investors have been proposing online for a few years now?
Right. So,
Premier, hold a minute there. Let me get one. Hold a minute there. Let me get one more call on the line one this, and then you can answer both questions one time. Shucks, sorry. The caller got cut off. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Okay. The first question had to do with the economy outside the zone, and we see the possibility of this zone, this level of investment, really significantly increasing the economy around the entire economy in Nevis. People are going to come into work. Those people need to live somewhere. The possibility, I think Yahsonn talked about entrepreneurs, the possibility of entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs have to have something to sell. And if they have something to sell, they need to have people to buy that something that they have to sell. So whether it is housing, whether it is more agriculture, more produce, bigger farms, whether it's the cannabis that Yahsonn talking about, whatever it may be, the reality is that we see that more people leads to more consumption, leads to more demand in the economy. And part of the public presentations has been an economic analysis done by Oxford Economics, which has pointed out what they consider to be the impact in terms of the overall economy. The zone you said would be allowed to bear arms. That is a matter that is still under discussion in terms of the gun laws that they would be introduced, if any. The police have asked to see the reference in terms of what they want to do, not just in relation to guns, but in relation to everything else. And that is being put together for the police to review. So I am not in a position to tell you categorically what that answer is yet. In relation to security within the zone, yes, they are saying that they would like to provide their own security. It is, in reality, I could understand that because we don't have the resources to patrol and do all of that within that area. The police have said quite clearly that they don't have the resources. And just as we are asking them to provide their own water and electricity and things of that nature, so there's not a demand on us, equally we are saying to them that they must provide their own security within the zone. Now, you asked the question about free society. I've seen a lot of that being bandied about. And I have said time and time again that I can't account for people's beliefs. That is not something that I delve into when I'm dealing with people. If Yahsonn were to come tomorrow and say he wanted to do an investment, I'm not going to ask him if he dreadlocks mean that he's really a Rasta, or if he eat bacon every morning for breakfast. That is not my business. I want to see the investment. I want to see the benefits of that investment. I want to see whether or not, in my opinion, that brings benefits to the people of Nevis. What he believes is his business. And I think that we have got carried away sometimes in the debates because we say, oh, these people believe that, these people believe this, and therefore that. And I'm saying, let us look at what is before us in terms of what is proposed. Bill Gates is one of the richest people in the world. He now owns 4 Seasons. Which of us tonight can say we know what Bill Gates believes about anything? These are my view. These are my view things. Once we do our due diligence, and these people are not criminals, these people are not involved in criminal activity, these people have the financial capacity to deliver, that's what we look to as a government when we are engaging with developers. Asking a man whether he believes in God, or whether he's Rasta, or whether he's Muslim, or whether he this, that has not been part of that discussion. And so I just call us, I understand people are doing their research as they should. I understand this is attracted. In fact, one of the things, somebody said to me, are you concerned about all this debate? I said, no, it actually is a good thing. With all of those who have a lot of negative things to say about this government and about Nevis, this is an exercise in democracy of the purest form. Our people are talking, our people are saying, our people have a right to say, which is not always the case everywhere else in the world. So we also have to celebrate the fact that we could have these types of discussions about matters that we feel impact us, and that we have a society that is established in the way that it is.
We have a call on the line. Let's take the call.
Go ahead,
Good
Yahsonn.
evening, caller.
Good evening. I got a question for the my name's Jacob Williams.
Boy, I'm not hearing this call at all. I'm sorry.
Caller, Could you raise your voice? Could you raise your voice a bit, please? We're not hearing you.
Yeah, the convention stated about 10 private owners own 1,500 acres, right?
Yes.
My question is, if private owners own that area, how can the government make that an SSZ zone that's privately owned? That don't make sense. Thank you. Good night.
Maybe the caller doesn't quite understand what I'm trying to say. Caller, all I'm saying is that currently, you have about 1,500 acres of land in the south of Nevis that is owned by about 10 people, right? So if these 10 people were to decide to sell those lands, you would have 1,500 acres just sold among those 10 people. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Yes, let me get this next caller in one time. Yeah, go ahead, caller.
Good evening to the panel and good evening to the Premier.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Premier, I know we talk a lot about work in this zone. This is a special sustainability zone. And with these different products and stuff like that. Now, we talk a lot about jobs. The people working there, we would be dependent on the social security. Would it be on the mainland or would it be in the zone?
We only have one social security system. Oh, sorry. Forgive me. Go ahead.
Ask the question, caller, please. Ask all the questions.
No, I'm asking if they're going to pay. I know it's a special zone.
Yeah, he said there's only one social.
They have their own water. They're going to have everything for themselves, their own. How would social security be paying for the people that work in the zone? If they're going to control their own security, their own special security, everything for them, they're going to control that. But if that is the case, why should they now pay money into our social security? How would that set up be?
But caller,
right, thank you, caller.
The caller needs to remember that Social Security is an investment that the employee makes. It is a benefit for the employee. So we only have one Social Security system, and that's the existing Social Security system. So the question, as I understand it, will they have a Social Security system inside? That is not the case.
One of the questions I have here from my next caller, Premier, is one is asking. Well, a few have been asking if it's something like this. If it was a yes or no, like a referendum, if they're for the project or if they know the project, yes or no, and then if the project goes forward. But before you answer, I have a next caller coming in. Caller, good evening.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, caller.
Yes, awesome. I just need to refine my question that I asked earlier. Bankie, it's voice of become Winston. The question I asked of the Premier, in respect to the conflict of interest, do you, in your opinion, engage in conflict of interest doing the job that the people put you there to do, and also additional jobs that you make under the table money or in any other shape or form? I need that answer. Is either a yes or a no. I leave it right there.
All right,
answer then another question,
right.
But I would like to get this answer.
All right, thank you, caller.
So the caller, I live my life in a particular way, and I support me or not support me, really no difference to me, because at the end of the day, we have a little thing called an election, and people make that decision at the polls. So I'm not really fussed about what people have to say, because ultimately, them who talk the most, them who talk the least, them have the same one vote, and people make a determination at the polls. I put my confidence in the people of Nevis, and so far, they have not let me down. Let me be very clear that I did not come into politics for money. I was doing quite well outside politics. And I think that the problem that we have is that anytime somebody steps into the arena and says they want to represent, there's some of us out there who immediately resort to them being corrupt or them being involved, and you say under the table. I like to tell people I don't like to negotiate around table because nobody's going to put anything under any table for Mark Brantley. I feel that it is a badge of honor that I have been in government for the past 12 years in Nevis. I have been in politics for nearly 20 years, and there has never been one incident involving Mark Brantley where anybody could suggest that he get anything under any table. So I don't take lightly to those suggestions because I have built a career and a life on the basis of being honest and open. And as I say, agree or disagree with me, that is a matter for you. But I have been very, very clear about my life and the way that I have chosen to live my life. People sometimes forget, because it's convenient for them to forget, that during the COVID-19 pandemic, Bankie, I didn't take a salary or benefits as Premier for 21 months. No, it's because I didn't need money, I didn't want money. Everybody needs money and everybody wants money. But my colleagues say we're going to take a cut for 6 months. And I say, you know what? I'm not going to take anything because I want to lead from the front on this. That's not somebody who's looking for money and want money, because a man who's looking for money will never give up a penny. When I spoke to my colleagues, Alexis Jeffers and Eric Evelyn, and we walked away from Team Unity in St. Kitts, we could have stayed there. Fellows could have said, boy, let me stay and secure pension and secure them something there. Those are people who are interested in money. That has never been my interest. And I want to make that very, very clear. I know how to make money. I was a very well-established lawyer, not only in Nevis, but around the region. I left that in order to come because I said I wanted to make a contribution to the development of Nevis. Accept it or not accept it, that's a matter for you. But I'm very clear in how I have sought to live my life and how I have sought to conduct myself in public life. So nobody is going to come to pass the crosses with me at talk about no on the table, because me not deal with no on the table. Right?
All right.
I'm a straight
I have
shooter.
a caller coming in a few minutes.
I'm a straight shooter, Bankie, and I deal honestly and openly with people.
All right, caller, welcome to the Topics. Good evening.
Good night.
Good night.
I hear the Premier just mentioned that during the COVID, he didn't take the money for 21 months.
Yes.
But the question I would like to ask the Premier, if after COVID, at any time did he get for those times he didn't take any money?
All right, thank you.
But caller, why would I say that I didn't take money if I end up taking the money after? That don't make no sense. I took no money during COVID and I did not take anything after. It's money that I just decided, listen, I'm going to forego. When things are hard with your country, you got to show people that you're in it with them. And I said, well, this was my own little way of showing the people of Nevis that I was in the storm with them. So there was no money taken after, and there will be no money taken by me. That money gone. That was money that I refused to take. And if you multiply the Premier salary by 21 months, you get a sense of how much money we're talking about, right? I'm only saying that because, as I said, those people out there who are trying to paint me as if I'm somebody looking for money, there's no evidence of that at any point in my political career or my public life. People who want to make money don't come into politics unless they want to be dishonest. And I am not a dishonest person.
All right, Premier, we have our next caller here. Give me a minute here.
Yes.
Call. Question?
Hello, good night.
Yes, go ahead.
I have two questions for the Premier.
Yes.
How come the Premier and his cabinet put the upholstery farm, the hospital, the Mondo truck, the airport, and the back burner? And what is it he would call an accomplished goal for this term he has sitting in office for he and his team?
All right, thank you. Do you understand the question, Premier?
Well, I would need, I think, a separate show if you're going to start to talk about accomplishments.
Yes.
Because if that caller drives on the roads in Nevis, Nevis has some of the best roads in the Eastern Caribbean, bar none. If that caller even looks across the waters to St. Kitts and hear that every night water shut off over there and water truck have to deliver water in St. Kitts, he would recognize the $50 million we've invested in the last 10 years in water in Nevis. So that you or I now could turn on our tap any hour, day and night and get water. If he had paid attention, he would know the number of generators we have bought up at Nevlec in the last decade so that we could have a reliable supply of electricity. He would look around the island. He would see the water taxi facility. He would see the MJR Park. He would see the Newcastle police station. He would see the Mondo track, because prior to that, our children were running on grass and dirt. They now have a facility they could run on, a proper facility. I mean, again, I recognize that in a democracy, not everybody is going to support you. But people are entitled to their own facts, you know. There's certain realities on the ground that people must look at. Drive through Brownhill if you want to hear about success. Drive through Bath Village. Drive up through Braziers. Drive Hanley's Road. Drive Shaw's Road. Drive the Nevis Island Main Road. It didn't come by accident. It came by investment over time.
Yes.
Take the water taxi. You know the entire water taxi industry, Bankie, is Nevisian based.
Yes, of course.
100%. 100% Nevision. Right? The young people working over there. That is vision. That is execution. That is something that was put in place. So if this caller is saying that he does not see any of those things, then some of us are willfully blind. And that is all I can say. But, you know, it is what it is. We recognize that, as I said, some people, no matter what happens, they will say they don't see it or they don't notice it. But the truth is
One of the questions for me,
the standard of our infrastructure on the island of Nevis is superior to most of our neighbors.
Yes. One of the question is, as with Team Unity, there was the situation where they have the Yahsonn card. So what's going on with the fair share and how did this work? And also, being at the town hall, I know there was one of the screen that Spencer was speaking about with the project and stuff like that. There was an area where they had some hot springs and they want to use them as spa and stuff like that. It's interesting that here on my show we speak about the Hutsi and the Tutsi, and you yourself speak about the Hutsi and the Tutsi and stuff like that. Because recently, my friend, well, there's a show, Government at Work, the King, this and that, this is Scarborough. Does that show is a government show? It's a private show? How does that work? I know he worked for the government. Because I know he mentioned for those who support the SSZ, he referred to you as Jesus, and those who oppose as the Barabbas, Team Barabbas. I'm just want to understand. Because you see, and then there's some was calling, like there's a separation between those who are for and those who are against, and that is something I really don't like. And then you have one now calling Team Barabbas, and you're referred to now as Jesus. So this is something. And then Columbus. So my thing is, I don't understand. The people are supposed to know Columbus was a pirate, you know, who brought prisoners here and wreak havoc on these islands. So I don't think that was a good thing. Because at the end of the day, what I'm saying is that the same projects still have these hot springs there, which means these investors or developers knew about these hot springs. So is there geothermal energy going to be drilled in that area out there?
So you've said a number of things, Bankie. No,
yes,
there's no intention. There's no intention, and based on the geothermal mapping that has been done, I have not seen that there's any geothermal drilling to be done over there. The geothermal wells, as you know, in Hamilton in the first instance. I think there's some in Jessops and then in Spring Hill. So that is those are the areas that the scientists have said that we have the potential for geothermal energy. This and that works for the government. Yes.
Okay, I wanted to interject a little bit because I have a caller waiting on the line. So hold that one in terms of responding to this and that, working on for the government, and if that show is sponsored by the government, because I think that's the question that we were trying to get. So Carla, good evening. Welcome to the topic. Wait, hold on a second. Hold on a second. Wait. Carla, 1 second. Let me put you. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, start again.
I'm sorry. Good evening. One clarification, because I did get the premier mention as part of his highlight achievement. Roads are not achievement. That's like the basic fundamental responsibility for government. Two questions from me.
What was that? Those are not achievements. Those are what? I didn't hear.
The rules are not necessarily achievements. They're just fundamental basic things that government should do.
So the government is doing its job then. That's what so what she's saying, the government is doing its job.
No, you counted that as an achievement, but that's not an achievement. That's just.
So I'm asking if it's not, just hear me out. I just want to be clear. So if it's not an achievement, you are saying that the government is doing its job. It's doing what it's supposed to do.
Which is that's just the basic. If I walk across the road, that's no income generation.
All right, Carla, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask about the dialysis, because you did indicate that when you did that trip to Guyana, that it was not training, and that you would have learned that it's not feasible to do dialysis in Nevis. So part one of the question is, I know this was like back in 2014, why didn't you just donate the two machines that were there to send kids? You wanted to essentially pool for divisions to go over, and then two, if you already learned in 2014 that it wasn't feasible and that Nevis was not going to do dialysis, why then in 2018 would you accept the donation from Taiwanese government for dialysis machines? And then since you didn't purchase the dialysis machines with those funds, where did those funds divert to?
Okay, Dr. Carla?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I think you will on that.
Yahsonn, let me take this call one time, Yahsonn. Well, let me take this call one time. Carla, good evening.
Hey, man, I'm free now?
Yeah, go ahead. You're live.
Okay, yeah, good night to you guys and good night to the premier. I got some slight questions real quick. One, I noticed that he says about like people in the diaspora, he's encouraging persons out in the diaspora to invest, right?
Yes.
But I just want to put a straight thing to the premier that the problems that we are having is just maybe like, it might be just the same problems like people might be having on the ground. We who out here in the diaspora, right? Persons who possibly maybe build a house and such things like that. We are having problems with the workmanship on the ground, and people like trying to sell it any old how, taking our money and not doing work, and such things like that. We're having very much difficulties from out here, being that we're in a foreign place and people are trying to take advantage of us because we are not there on the ground. We need to be citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis as well, and we need representation out here. So I'm asking the premier if there's any way, some type of framework or anything that can be put into place, especially we out here, to get maybe access to like lawyers and stuff like that. So when we have issues that arise from such situations, we can have that easy access and that help. Number two, the effectiveness or the inefficiencies of the government offices on the ground. Back to us out here again. We sometimes need to interact with these offices. Can we get those offices outfitted? We know the magic jack is long gone, but can we get these offices outfitted with like WhatsApp numbers at least so we can communicate directly? And thirdly, lastly, the banking system. A man goes to the bank and goes through a vigorous process to open a bank account. We are not home. We are out here in the diaspora. Then the banks then put our bank's account into dormant state. And then if we don't have transactions over a time period, right? But that's our bank account. We already showed all of our documents and opened those accounts, right? Whether you have that bank whether you don't put a transaction or have a transaction in that account or not, that is still our bank account.
10 seconds, Carlo.
Why would the banks put it through another process of like we reapplying to reopen our bank accounts again? Those are my three concerns right now. I'll come back in later. Thanks.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
So,
Okay.
Bankie, yeah.
I was gonna say you could respond to the caller prior to that.
Yeah, to this last caller, he asked some questions that really are not within my domain, because his relationship with his banker, for example, is a private relationship. I know the caller, and I want to say good night to him. I used to bowl leg spin to him. He was a good batsman back in the day. But just to tell you that
you used to bowl leg spin.
Leg spin.
You used to bowl leg spin. You know, both crickets, they don't be coming on here saying, well, leg spin, you know, can't hold the ball, you know.
No, man, Bankie. I'm a big time leg spin bowler, man. You know, wrist spinner.
Okay.
So, listen, right. I just want to say that I lived in the US for a while, and they have a similar system as far as I'm aware, that if you have dormant accounts, that is accounts that are not seeing any activity for whatever the required period is, then they deal with those accounts in a particular way. So that's not really a government thing. Now, the inefficiency you talk about, yes, that's a problem. What we've done is that in January, I think, of this year, we published a new policy, which was geared towards providing significant incentives to our diaspora to come home or to invest at home. We have since opened an office. In fact, there's a youngster, Mr. Delvin Clark, from Hamilton. He's the person in charge of that office. We're building out that infrastructure. So our people who want to come in from overseas have a one-stop shop. Now, caller, I'm not sure how to deal with the issue you're saying about, you know, if the workmen don't do good quality work and all of that. I would suggest if anybody overseas is going to build locally, then you get a project manager. That for me is the best way to suggest it. If you're not on the ground, then you get somebody on the ground who you can trust to deal with matters for you on the ground. It would be a good idea, for example, I know when I built, even though I was on the ground, I don't know about construction. So I actually had a guy who would come and, you know, would check and say, you know, let's do the phases. It's a phase development. So you pay in phases. And when one particular phase is done, then he would certify, and then I would make the payment accordingly. So that was the understanding that I had on that. To the previous caller who had some questions about dialysis, I'm not sure that there's any value in going over the ground again, because I think at the start of the show, I sought to explain in a fulsome way where we were, where we are, and where we hope to be going. So I will just leave that there for now, because I don't think that...
Okay, steady then. Let me take this call and continue, because we're going to talk about dialysis. Okay, caller, good evening. Welcome to the topics.
Yeah, good evening, gentlemen. Just one question for the Premier.
Yes.
Yeah, that's just I understand that the NIA is negotiating with Destiny Free Society Limited on its own. And I would like to know whether they have commissioned any anthropological studies to suggest the impacts of planting 10 to 15,000 non-African descendants on a small 36 square mile island. That's all. Good night.
All right, thank you. All right, Premier, you can continue the conversation on the dialysis.
The caller said we're negotiating with Destiny Free Society Limited. I don't know that company. So I'm not having any discussion with anybody called Destiny Free Society Limited. So I just want to make that very clear. The company is South Nevis Limited that is purchasing some land, and the name of the project is Destiny. So let's yes. As I said, if we're going to be engaging, let's engage factually. They say we're engaging on our own. That's not entirely true, because, as I said, we've had a number of discussions, consultations, publicly and privately, in relation to this matter, and that has helped us tremendously in refining and continually reassessing our position. 10 to 15,000 non-Africans. Again, I'm not sure. Why does the call assume that people are necessarily going to be non-Africans? I think when developments are open, they're open to whoever wants to invest. And so I'm not knowing where the non-African story is coming from. And that, again, is something that people have just created, because I suppose it's a straw man that you create and then you knock down with as much furor as you can. What I will say, though, is that 10 to 15,000 seems to be a matter, because even in my conversations, people have raised it with me. I think our people need to understand that 10 to 15,000 people, well, actually the number is 7 to 10,000, but whatever the number is, once a 15,000, that we don't anticipate that we'll have 10 to 15,000 people tomorrow or at once. We're talking about over the life of this project. And I was commenting to someone recently that Four Seasons has just broken ground on the last phase of the Four Seasons development. That's 35 years after they started. So development is something that takes time, and we anticipate that over time, we anticipate 7 to 10,000 people. That's the estimate that we've had. So I don't want the people of Nevis to move away with the view that some planes are going to start to land in 2026 June and 10,000 people are going to appear in Nevis. That's not the way it works. You have to build out infrastructure, you have to build out housing, you have to put in the necessary, and then people would come. So I just, think that we need to be clear in terms of development and how development works. So that for me is very important. Yes. All right. But there's no company called Destiny Free Society Limited. I'm not sure what that call is talking about.
We didn't finish up the dialysis question.
Yes. So yes. Going back to the issue of dialysis. As I said, I at the start of the show, we had, in my view, a full discussion about dialysis. I don't know that I could add anything new to that. I have pointed out where we were, I point out where we are, and I point out where we hope to be going in relation to dialysis. I don't know that there's much that I could add to that. The caller did say that my expressions about roads and all that she didn't consider those to be accomplishments. And I tried to press her to ask her if that means that we were doing our job. She said that's the regular government job. So at least I suspect I can take away from her comments that she's satisfied that we're doing the government job. That is the job for which we were elected. So if we're doing what we were elected to do, I think that's a good thing.
Okay, one question, right? One question. If someone don't sell the land within the SSZ, what's then? How does this work?
Nothing.
If they don't sell the land,
you don't sell the land. What's the matter for you?
So so it don't affect the project then, because they're outside the zone. Is not how the zone or out the zone? How that?
Well, you cannot have a zone. The zone can only be declared over land that is owned by the developers.
Okay. All right, cool.
If Bankie hasn't sold his land, then his land can't be included in any zone.
I think the question the person is trying to get to Bankie is, okay, like for example, Mr. Brantley, you have the SSZ. At this point, there is no quote-unquote access road, so to speak. So depending on where the land is situated, if you happen to be within the zone and you don't want to sell, would you still end up having access now to your land?
Well, you must. By law, you must have access to your land. Right?
Okay.
So
I think that's what they were trying to figure out.
However that access is provided to you, you must have access to your land. So that is the legal position. So there are no ifs, ands, buts, or maybes about that.
Okay. Now there are a couple of things that I wanted to clarify, right? I'll get to one right now via a clip. But
just a question, it's now 10 o'clock. How long are you guys going to go until?
Well, we're about to wrap up anytime now. We ain't going to keep it for too long. We're going to just, we're going to just wrap up.
I'm just asking because I realize it's 10 o'clock.
As long as you have the time, we would accommodate.
That's fine. Yes.
We would want to ask questions and have your presence. So if you're not in a rush, we would be willing to accommodate you. In terms of the SSZ and the proposed project. Okay, so now with the SSZ, now some of the changes that seemingly there is, that the developers and in terms of the project would not necessarily have to go through the normal route. It would be something that would be answered by either the Prime Minister or the Premier and the Nevis end that would give the answer in relation to if the project is going to move forward or not. It's not necessarily like going to physical planning and those kind of things. Is that correct to say?
Stick up in Yahsonn, because again, I think we need clarity. In the ordinary course, planning and those only come into effect when you're now talking about the details of the project. The question of whether or not a project will go ahead is entirely a matter for the cabinet. So again, you have to understand, because if you come tomorrow and you want to do a poultry farm, just drawing a reference, right? That will come to the cabinet. The cabinet will do its assessment and say, yes, we want the poultry farm. The details now of the EIA and how the poultry farm is going to function, whether it's going to affect people around, etc. That is where now planning comes into play. And planning will say, well, all right, this you got to do, this you got to do, that you got to do the other. So I don't want you to think that a project is taking necessarily a different form because the cabinet is involved, because that's how major projects, all of them, come to cabinet. All right? That's an important part of it.
That's why I said I wanted to ask to get some clarity in that regard. The other clarity area of clarity that I would have wanted in relation to the SSZ and the developers. I think at this point I would use a clip to ask this question. So technician, if you are ready, just play the clip and then let's get some clarity.
So they're saying, listen, in terms of risk profile, the risk to them is exponentially greater than the risk to the government, because the government is not being asked to spend or invest any money. So if this thing were to move forward, the only obligation on the part of the government is not to repeal the legislation. Now, if they were to walk away, so let us say they come in and after a year or two, they decide that this isn't going well and we want to walk away, then the current provision that is there, which I should add is a matter that we are still negotiating, is that they have a $75 million penalty.
That's all.
Okay, so...
Okay, yeah, before the Premier answer, Yahsonn, let me take this caller here one time. Caller, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you. Just going back to the Free Society Limited, and I'm going to quote from a podcast from 5th of August this year. So this is a quote from Professor Tom W. Bell of the Destiny Board, and the quote reads, "My main client is Free Society Limited, and they have a big project which is just about to launch. We've been meeting with top government officials. Basically, I can say it will be the first free, private, decentralized city, kind of like a super homeowner association plus Monaco. So that's going to launch soon." So I just wanted to add that to fuel exactly where I got the Free Society Limited from. It's sort of a horse's mouth kind of thing. So I'm not sure exactly whether the Premier knows that that is who he is negotiating with or not, but that's who they call themselves. Anyway, gentlemen, have a good night.
All right, thanks for your call, caller. Appreciate it.
You see, gentlemen, here's where, again, the gentleman just say quoted from a podcast. Did that podcast say anything about Nevis?
No.
You see, this is what I'm saying. Now, this fellow Bell, my understanding is Bell is a lawyer, and Bell is consults, and he's consulting on this particular project. But how do we know what project Bell is talking about? These are the things. People, as I said, they hear what they hear and they respond to what they hear. But I don't know. I've never met with Mr. Bell. Mr. Bell is not somebody who, Mr. Bell, as far as I know, is merely somebody who's providing advice to these developers. Mr. Bell is not part of this team other than by providing advice to the team. So he's not an investor. He's a hired person, So again, these are matters which, as I said, I am dealing with what's in front of me. All right, that is my role. I think, Yahsonn, you were asking something about the clip that you just played. And then Bankie introduced the caller.
Yes. So I was trying to figure out from that clip there is the argument presented by many that the bill should be repealed. We are not necessarily hearing any suggestion or getting any, positive feedback in relation to any of the government, whether it's the federal government or the NIA, in terms of even considering that pushback from the public. Listening to that clip,
from which public, Yahsonn? I keep talking to you all, but nobody listen to me,
Okay, right? So hold on. When I say the public,
yes,
I speak to some of the civic organizations. I speak to some of the other prominent voices in society. I speak to the people who I speak to, I see on a regular basis. I speak to a lot of the people who I hear on many different forums. So it's not just and so when I say the public, I speak to a lot of those people. I know that there's some who are also
Yahsonn, let me ask you. So let me ask you. So you don't believe the Premier Nevis speak to people too?
Sure.
Okay. So that's my point.
I'm not doubting that.
So no. Here's my simple point. A lot of us as commentators like to come and say what the public want. What we must say is the people we talk to, right? Because that's very important. Because I could assure you, for every person that you are saying is saying X, there is somebody out there who's saying Y. They may not be on the radio, they may not be on the show, they may not be making comments all night, but they are equally important and their view is equally important. Not everybody is willing to share their views publicly, but I can tell you a lot of people are speaking privately, sharing their ideas privately, and I am not seeing this groundswell that people seem to be supposing about repealing any SSZ. So I'm just making a clarification that sometimes when we frame what we are saying, yes.
In all fairness, I hear that comment from you and I hear that pushback. But however, I think there was a question someone asked at some point in relation to having a referendum on the issue, and or maybe even having what they call it, a poll on the issue, where we could actually have more statistics to substantiate it instead of, because yes, there will be some who will be for it and there will be some who would not be for it. And I'm not trying to say that there's everybody for it. And that's
the nature of democracy.
Right. But
you're a strong proponent of cannabis. You know many people against cannabis? A lot.
Yeah.
That's the nature of democracy.
I know that. Exactly.
Well, so, right? All right.
So,
gentlemen, we going back and forth over this.
No. I mean, that's what it is. No, the other area that I wanted to look at. I hear you mention as well that it's one of the first bills. The first time that a project like this would have to go through the cabinet and have to go through Parliament in order to be passed or be given the green light. Yes. However, when we look at the structure of our Parliament, and let's look at the present Parliament, so to speak, and the dynamics that lies therein. As much as it is something to say that it is the first time we're going through this, but let's look at the reality. What would or could prevent this from going through, even though it is the first time? Based on the fact that you have it on the federal side, most of the federal government members would support it, if not all. And then we have 3 out of the 5 opposition members who will support it, you and your other 2. So really and truly, even though you're saying that, yes, it is something that has to go through Parliament, the reality is the way our Parliament is structured, there's no really opposition to really stop it at this point, based on how it is structured, because you guys
I think with respect, you misunderstand the point about having to go through Parliament. Having to go to Parliament means that there's no secrecy associated with this. That's the point. That everybody, you, I, Bankie, and all the people who are commenting on and viewing your show tonight, would have access to what is going to go to Parliament. The point about Parliament is that this is the first time in the history of St. Kitts and Nevis that any development has to be made public. That's all I'm saying. It has never happened before.
Okay, before we
you're saying that it's neither here or there. Then it's just like a publicity stunt, so to speak, like with the promotion
of.
No,
it's a publicity stunt, Yahsonn. You wouldn't want to know. You wouldn't want to know what is being agreed.
No.
You wouldn't want to know what's being agreed.
Yes, I want to know what is being discussed, but also I would want to know that my views and opinions, so to speak, may have some weight in the decision making. Not when at the end of the day, even though we have that discussion, the way how the Parliament is structured at this point, it is going to go through. There's no opposition to stop it, especially knowing that you three members who are in the opposition will support it.
But yes, and what this is a system that we have. You want to invent a new system of government now? You can't have it both ways. When it suits you, like it. When it don't suit you, don't like it.
Yes. Okay.
Let me take this caller here. Let me take this caller. Caller, be quick.
I'll be quick. One short question. I'll be quick.
Yes.
With the benefit of all, some are for, some are against. From the Premier perspective, would it be fair to say this thing is a done deal with the destiny? Thank you.
Yes, thanks.
Is it a what? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Is it what?
If it's a done deal, if it's a done, similar way Yahsonn asking if it's a done deal.
No.
That's what you're asking?
No. The short answer is no, because even as I'm here speaking to you, we still have some points that we are negotiating. So I can't say it's a done deal.
Okay, next question, Premier. I know you didn't answer it earlier. I was asking about Mr. Scarborough. Who does he works for? And they show the government working, something like that, and that's what the exact name.
Right. I started to answer.
The show.
Right.
Yes, sorry about that.
I started to answer to say that Mr. Scarborough works for government, and the show is a government show. It's supposed to be a government show, yes.
Yes. But he's separating and calling the taxpayers Barabbas, Team Barabbas, and he's referring to you as Team Jesus. So this is after this project, all of Nevis problem will be solved. So we were speaking earlier about the Hutsi and the Tutsi, but he's doing similar things. Well, the Hutu, where I'm coming from, the Hutu and the yes, then the Tutsi, yes.
Yeah, Tutsis.
Yes.
I didn't hear the program myself. I did get a call from the PS to say that there was a program that he did, and I think Mr. Scarborough is a former politician, and I suppose the political rhetoric sometimes enters his lexicon. I did not hear the program. I'm not sure what was said on the program, but if he were to say something on that program that you found offensive,
the man call you Jesus. What do you mean the man call you Jesus? The man refer to as Jesus.
Well,
I'm telling you,
I would not have heard. I would not have heard the program. If he called me Jesus, he probably is trying to say that I'm trying to be,
No. You are the Jesus. You are the Savior. No, you are the real Savior. I'm telling you. And people like me are Barabbas.
That's my ambition. So,
yes, but that's a late moment. But let the Premier finish up. Let the Premier finish up with Yahsonn. Let the Premier finish up with Mr. Scarborough. Part. I want to hear his
I'm just. You asked me questions. I'm just confirming that Mr. Scarborough works for government. Yes. And the program is a government program. But I'm also saying that I confess that I did not hear the program myself. I was told that he said some things that were controversial, but I've not heard it myself.
Okay, all right, appreciate it. Yahsonn, and then if you can please wrap up.
Yeah, but I got a couple of questions on the cannabis side. Despite laws to promote the cannabis industry, there seems to be little ministerial action or public communication. What is holding back the government of Nevis, so to speak, in terms of engagement in the cannabis industry?
So, Yahsonn, you asked an excellent question. The short answer is that we had taken the position, let me use the word had, we had taken the position that we will let the federal government lead on this, all right? Because we understood that the legalities of it, decriminalization or legalization, would have to come nationally. It couldn't be done at the NIA level. I will confess away that I've been disappointed at the lack of movement. And it's a matter that I've raised most recently about 3 weeks ago with the Attorney General. There are two aspects to this. One, there's a lack of movement, lack of education, lack of information, as you have rightly pointed out. But two, while we wait for that information and that infrastructure to be put in place, the police continue to raid and to charge and to prosecute people. I have a difficulty with that because I have been one of those who stood up in the parliament and said, listen, let us move in a particular direction. Let us diversify the economy. Let us have the cannabis industry. And so it cannot be that, for example, you say that there's a licensing regime in place, but you do not put anybody there who could issue the license. You do not put the committee or the commission or whatever it is you need to put in place. And so the man who wants to grow ganja cannot get the license because he don't have nobody he could apply to for the license. And then the police go now and they pull up the man ganja and they charge the man. You understand? It's a real conundrum that we find ourselves in on this cannabis issue. And so I had a conversation with the Honorable Attorney General because I said, you can't have people in limbo like that. The federal government must do its work, put in place the necessary framework so that people who want to apply for a license have a mechanism and can go and say they know they could go to Office A at Port Zante or Office B in Charleston and apply for their license. And that to me is where we need to get to. Why we're dragging our feet, I'm not sure. But I can tell you that this is a matter that we are taking up with the federal government. The infrastructure that is anticipated on the legislation is the architecture is federal. But the NIA now needs to look to see if Sinkis is not going to move, if Sinkis is going to continue, the manner in which they've been dealing with it, whether or not we have any authority to branch out on our own in the terms of the federal legislation that is in place now for cannabis, because the current system is simply not viable. It's not sustainable. It's not working, and people are being criminalized for something which, in my humble opinion, is past us now. We gone past that.
Okay, a quick question while you're at that. Suppose the SSZ, right? They want to deal with cannabis. They will be able to. How would that work if they want to deal with cannabis?
That has not come up. The issue would be whether or not that legislation is applicable inside the zone, but that issue has not come up. Okay. We have not had that discussion.
Okay. Yahsonn, anything else in the Premier wrap up? Then the Premier wrap up, Yahsonn wrap.
Well, I got just two follow-up questions on the cannabis side of things still. Well, the Premier mentioned that you would have been very vocal, and that's something that I find quite interesting as well. That and it seems to happen along agricultural line, and cannabis now, in terms of the medical side, has been placed in the Ministry of Agriculture, so to speak. And we get this a lot of lip service when it comes to agriculture. People, when it's convenient, whether it's World Food Day or whatever it is in agriculture, you get some fancy speeches and so on. But then at the end of the day, you don't see the money in the budget to represent those speeches, and you don't see necessarily actions taken to make some of the things happen. And so in that regard, you said that the position that the NIA would have taken is that you would have allowed the federal government to lead. But to lead means that you're following whoever is leading. But in the Nevis end, there's no following at all, because we have never heard the Minister of Agriculture, who is responsible for medical cannabis on Nevis, spoke to anything about cannabis. So that cannot be following, because we would have seen on the federal side a number of things happening on St. Kitts where cannabis is concerned. They would have had a cannabis event. They would have had music festival giving allowances for a smoke-free zone and so on. We don't see anything like that happening in Culturama. So I cannot concur that there's a follow. Actually, I'm seeing a deafening silence where cannabis is concerned. And so I'm wondering, why is there deafening silence? And I know you would have spoken out on the platform, on platforms like this, in regards to where your position is for cannabis. However, as they would say, the buck stops with you. And if your minister is not doing anything with cannabis, and has been doing so for a number of years. How do you sit comfortably allowing that in his portfolio is something that he's responsible for? With the taxpayers are paying him to deal with this. So
yes,
the silence on
I
that,
think
yes.
Yeah, but I think that there's a flaw in your argument that the minister is responsible somehow for cannabis. The cannabis is being dealt with within a specific framework, and that framework is federal in nature. There's no NIA framework for cannabis at the moment, and that I think is the best explanation as to why you have not seen that happening on Nevis. Even the licensing framework is federal in nature. That is a framework that has been established nationally. So if it is that you're saying that we need to talk more about it or we need to have more activities on it in Nevis, and I don't think it's true to say nothing has happened, because, I mean, in fact, I have a picture of me and Bankie with some cannabis at a agricultural fair. So we have had examples of cannabis being on display here in Nevis. I think the position on the island has definitely softened in relation to cannabis, whether it's possession or its use. I am not as focused as you seem to be on what a minister may say. I am more focused on whether or not we can get the infrastructure in place to allow people to get about the business and not to be criminalized by doing it. That's where my focus lies. And that is where my agitation is going to be with the federal government.
Okay, finally on that.
You guys have anything further for me?
Yeah, finally on this topic, would you consider appointing or contracting a representative to actively promote and grow this sector involving the local population? So since, like, for example, there's nobody doing it right now, would you be willing to contract somebody?
Yes, and it's something that I think I'm open to, but we have not considered it. You know, it is not something that we have actively looked at to sort of like have a cannabis czar, somebody who deals with that. No, I think what we have been looking at is rather to allow the industry to grow organically, but to grow in a way that people are licensed and not criminalized for it. And that for me is really the thing that's most important to me, because I see a lot of lives being impacted negatively by this duality. On one hand, we're saying we want a cannabis industry. On the other hand, police still a kick down man door and lock them up and put a picture all over social media to say they've been charged with possession. So we can't have, fire and water, in my opinion. We have to determine which direction we want to go. And that is really how we need to deal with it.
Premier, I want to thank you again for coming on the topics and choosing Real Entertainment Network. Greatly appreciate you coming on and facing the public, engaging the public, giving the information about the projects that that is proposed and stuff like that. And hopefully our next meetup is 3 months from now. Hopefully sometime before the agriculture open day, sometime in March. But we'll communicate that. And people want to know why not between me and Bankie and the Premier. How come the Premier come and Bankie show so easy? Let them know, it's like that. Ain't a big issue. You stick your man of your word. You say you're gonna come on this show, and you come on this show. That's all it is. Cause the wine was special there between me and you.
And Bankie, I think it's also important that our people understand that I'm the Premier of all of Nevis. Not because some people didn't vote for me and some people want to see the back of me in government. I am the Premier of all of Nevis. I have to engage with everybody. And that has been my style, to engage with everybody, to share information with everybody. Let's face it, you have an audience here that may not necessarily be the same audience for other forums. So
I don't know about the audience. You keep talking about my audience. I don't know about my audience, but you keep bringing me and my audience in this thing.
No, because I've been reading the comments, and the comments is all one way.
It's a jag me this thing. Anyway, well, you at it. One the question is, they said, why not? If the Destiny project bought any government land. All right. One of the questions is they want to know is the developers got any government land to buy?
Right.
Yeah?
So the answer to that is no. We have some government. We have some lands that are owned by NHLDC. That's close to the Saddle Hill area. And what we have said is we'll consider swapping those lands. There's one. Let me just add this, that we are undertaking some research in the area because there's some lands in the area that the suggestion has been made to the government that they may be government lands, but they are currently what we call unregistered. So we have a
Okay.
surveyor who's doing that investigation for us. So once that investigation is over, we'll make a determination about those lands. But the lands that we currently own through NHLDC, we're thinking about swapping those, not selling them. The land that we did own,
swapping with the project, with the zone,
yes,
you mean, and getting land somewhere else?
Yes.
Okay.
The lands that we did own, it was 238 acres. Those lands were swapped for debt already back in 2012. So we don't have those lands anymore.
So does the government must swap the land, or the government can you hold those land to expand for other things apart?
We can. It's government land. We can do whatever we want to do with that land. But I'm saying that that is what we are contemplating. That if we can get land in another area, and in fact more land, then because we wouldn't be swapping 1-to-1, we'd be swapping 1 to 1 point something. So I think what's proposed is 1 to 1.2 or 1.25, something like that. So if we can get more land in another area, it's a matter that we will consider. But currently, no, there's no government land that has been sold.
All right, continue to wrap up, Carl. Continue to wrap up, because we're going to go all night. Okay.
Just want to thank everybody. I'm glad you say we can go all night. You know, that means that despite the fact that you're a little younger than me, I still have the stamina, you know, to go and stay up.
Yeah, man.
You know? So I want to thank you guys, man. You know, it's always a great time to have a conversation. And I assure you, anytime that you want to and that I'm available, I'm here. You know, it's important that all the people of Nevis understand that there are forums and different forums when they can engage. I pride myself, Bankie and Yahsonn, on being available. I know sometimes it's difficult with schedule, but I do pride myself on being available. I take this very seriously, that if you say you're involved in public life, you must be available and you must be willing to engage. Not because the questions may be hard, sometimes they're even hostile. That's all right. You must be available and be willing to engage. Because at the end of the day, decisions that are made affect everybody, right? So you guys need me, you call me, send me a little message, and I will come.
Definitely.
And thanks a lot for all the questions and for the engagement. I think it's an important exercise in democracy, and that's what I'm all about.
Greatly appreciated. Yahsonn?
Thank you very much, Premier. It's always a pleasure engaging and having that exchange with you. A couple of things. I'm not going to let you get away with trying to brand us and put us under a green flag here. We are a very open and transparent platform here. That's one of the reasons why a lot of people...
I never brand you, know, me brand the commentary. That's what me brand you. I never brand you.
So I want you to be aware that even though the comments may seem that way, it's a very open platform. We have all walks and shapes. And as you mentioned, Rastafari, we don't really take on them things that, you know. Anyway, though, it's always a pleasure reasoning with you. In relation to the cannabis, as we wrap up, I'm going to put my hand up to let you know, and the minister, that I am open and available. At one point, the government actually, when you were in community, sent me to Canada to learn about cannabis. So I do have a lot of training and information in that regard. So I'm putting up my hand. That's one. Two, before we go, the last time you were here, so I'm going to put it on the public, you did put out a challenge to Bankie to take him back at Indian Castle. You know, any updates on that before we go? But
so I understand you're a Bankie lawyer now?
well, a lawyer representative. Maybe I might be his
The Bankie I know is shy, you know. The Bankie I know is not shy, so he don't need a lawyer to talk to him.
Anyway, it's always a pleasure. Never a dull moment when we have the Premier here with us. And I'm really looking forward to further engagements and conversations in relation to agriculture and all the other issues. I didn't really get to touch on the fear shake because I wanted to get into certain things with you on that, clarify some things in that regard. So I guess when we come back with round 3, because I see that we're round 2, we'll do that. So enough love, everybody. People. I'm sorry about the folks who we didn't get through all of the comments. We realized that there's a lot of comments on the feed, and generally we would, but you know, based on the engagement of the topic and the callers and the conversations, I'm sure that you would bear with us this edition that we didn't go through that, but generally we really try to. And I see that there was a poll that was presented in the comment section for people to say whether they're for or against the SSZ. And that could be something that may be able to give the Premier some information, and we could have some clarity in that regard when the Premier come back and say that only one or two people are talking to, or only some people are talking to. So, yes, with that, enough love, people. See you guys next week. Sorry, see you guys on Friday.
Tomorrow.
Oh, sorry, tomorrow. Where we speak with Professor Dr. Charles McWilliams with Medicine for the People, one of the only health programs we have, natural medicinal programs. So, Premier, I'm encouraging you and the health department and so on to tune in and be a part of this. It's an opportunity also for Nevisians to be a part of a course that's going to be offered by the Jade Clinic. That's going to be started next year. So for those who might be interested in that side of things, you can get up to, I think we're going to start with the bachelor's program, but then you will go up to a master's and doctorate program in herbal medicine. So stay tuned and encourage the nationals and young people to get involved and learn as much as possible from the doc before he, go to another transition to another sphere. So people, with that, we say good evening and see you guys tomorrow at 7 o'clock for another edition of Medicine for the People. Of love, everybody.
Right. Thank you for me.
All right. Thank you very much.
Sorry not Justin Timberlake, write me a river. Lately I be having conversations with myself cause I feel like I have nobody to talk to. I be having conversations with myself cause I feel like I have nobody to turn to.